There is a truck you cannot buy in America. It has been tested in conditions no F-150 or Ram has ever faced in a manufacturer's advertisement or an independent durability trial. It is sold in 180 countries at prices starting around $28,000. It is trusted by militaries, aid organizations, and farmers on 6 continents. And the reason you cannot walk into a dealership and buy one has nothing to do with safety standards, nothing to do with emissions compliance, and everything to do with a 60-year-old tariff on frozen chicken that Ford Motor Company has spent tens of millions of dollars keeping on the books. This is that story. The Toyota Hilux is the best-selling pickup truck on Earth, measured by total cumulative volume. 180 countries, decades of production, a reputation for mechanical reliability that was not built by a marketing department but by the specific and documented failure of everything people tried to do to kill one. In 2003, the BBC program Top Gear subjected a 300,000-kilometer Hilux to a sequence of destruction tests, submerged in the ocean at high tide, struck repeatedly with a wrecking ball, dropped from a multi-story building, placed inside a building that was then demolished and set on fire. After each event, the presenter walked up to what remained and started the engine. It started every time. That truck is now displayed in the Top Gear studio. The Hilux has never been sold in the United States. Not because Toyota chose not to sell it here. Not because it failed to meet American safety or emission standards. Because a tariff law written in 1964 makes importing it economically impossible, and the companies most threatened by its existence have spent 60 years making sure that law never changes. And here is the subhook you need to understand before we go further. The average transaction price of an F-Series truck in 2024 was $62,000. Keep that number in mind. The wall keeping the Hilux out of your driveway has a name. It is called the chicken tax, and if you have never heard of it, that is exactly how the domestic truck industry prefers it. In 1963, West Germany and France imposed tariffs on imported American poultry, cutting off a significant export market for U.S. chicken farmers. The Johnson administration retaliated in 1964 with a series of counter tariffs, the most durable of which was a 25% import duty on light trucks, pickup trucks in practical terms. The European chicken tariff was resolved within a decade. The American light truck tariff never was. It remained on the books, untouched, through every subsequent administration, through the formation of NAFTA, through the WTO, through 60 years of trade policy revision. Today, in 2025, every pickup truck imported into the United States from outside North America carries a 25% tariff on its landed value before a single other cost is applied. That 25% tariff on a Hilux with a factory price of $28,000 adds $7,000 to the cost before U.S. dealer margin, before shipping, before port fees, before compliance costs. The math produces a retail price that cannot compete with the domestically manufactured product, which is precisely the intended outcome, and precisely why the Volkswagen Amarok, the Isuzu D-Max, the Mitsubishi Triton, the Ford Ranger built in South Africa, and the Toyota Hilux built in Thailand are all sold in Australia, Europe, South America, and Southeast Asia at prices Americans would find extraordinary, and none of them are available at any American dealer. But here is the dimension of this story that moves it from trade policy into something considerably more deliberate. Here is where the story stops being about a 60-year-old tariff that nobody got around to repealing and starts being about something that is actively maintained. Ford does not simply benefit from the chicken tax. Ford lobbies to keep it. Internal Ford documents surfaced during congressional testimony related to chicken tax reform hearings in 2022 showed the company's government affairs team had actively engaged against reform legislation in 2015, 2017, and 2019. Every reform bill introduced in those years died in committee. Ford and General Motors combined spent $42 million on federal lobbying in 2023, the National Automobile Dealers Association, whose members profit directly from the high transaction prices that result from a market without genuine truck competition, has consistently filed formal opposition to every reform proposal. The financial logic is not complicated. The F-Series generated an estimated 40 to 50% of Ford Motor Company's total North American operating profit in 2024 on approximately 750,000 units, sold at an average of $62,000 each. The F-Series is not a truck line. It is Ford's financial foundation. Every analyst who has modeled the introduction of the Hilux or the Amarok into the U.S. market at their unencumbered global pricing has produced the same output. Meaningful share loss at the base and mid-range trim levels, where the price gap would be most visible, and significant downward pressure on transaction prices across the segment as consumers gained a genuine reference point for value. Ford knows what the Hilux costs in Australia. Ford's product planners have driven every global truck competitor in every market where they are sold. The decision to oppose chicken tax reform is not ignorance of the alternative. It is a calculated defense of the margin structure that funds everything else Ford does. Wait, because it gets worse. The Volkswagen Amarok 5.6, which you also cannot buy in America, produces 282 horsepower and 550 Newton-meters of torque from a 3-liter turbo diesel. It carries a 5-star Euro NCAP safety rating. Its towing capacity exceeds the Ford Ranger Raptor, which starts at $54,900. The Amarok's equivalent price in Australia is approximately $55,000, fully loaded in the top specification. The Ranger Raptor you can buy starts at the same price and tows less. Ford sells both trucks. In every country except this one, buyers get to choose between them. The $40,000 truck from the opening exists. You can buy it. It just takes a different kind of transaction than walking onto a dealer lot with a trade-in and a financing application. The 25-year import rule, formerly the EPA and NHTSA exemption for vehicles 25 years or older, allows any American to import a vehicle manufactured outside the U.S. if it is at least 25 years old, without requiring it to meet current federal emissions or safety standards. This is the same legal pathway discussed in the RV community for importing Japanese camper vans, and it applies equally and powerfully to trucks. A 1997 to 2000 Toyota Hilux Surf, the Japanese domestic market version of the 4Runner platform, built on the same commercial-grade diesel architecture as the global Hilux, imported from Japan in 2025, arrives with odometer readings typically between 40,000 and 90,000 kilometers. That is 25,000 to 56,000 miles. Why so low? Because Japan's shaken vehicle inspection system, a mandatory roadworthiness test that becomes progressively more expensive as a vehicle ages, creates a powerful financial incentive for Japanese owners to sell their trucks before the inspection cost escalates. The result is a steady supply of low-mileage, meticulously documented, rust-free Japanese domestic market trucks available at Japanese auction for prices that, after shipping, compliance, and import costs, land in American hands at $35,000 to $45,000. For a diesel truck with 50,000 miles, a documented service history, and an engine designed for 500,000 kilometers service life. The estimated volume of vehicles imported under the 25-year rule grew from approximately 5,000 per year in 2015 to over 30,000 in 2023. That number is growth, because Americans who discover this pathway do not go back to the domestic dealer system. They are buying what 180 other countries have always been allowed to buy. The domestic manufacturers are aware of the trend. They cannot lobby against the 25-year rule without drawing attention to exactly why they would want to. The final detail worth sitting with. Ford produces the Ranger and right-hand drive configuration for Australia, South Africa, and Thailand. It is mechanically identical to the Ranger sold here, assembled in the same factories, to the same specifications. It is sold in Australia starting at approximately $34,000 US. The US version starts at $35,900. The difference in price is not cost. It is the market structure that the chicken tax created and that 60 years of lobbying has preserved. The chicken tax was written to protect American poultry farmers from European trade retaliation. The European chicken tariff it was retaliating against was removed decades ago. The American truck tariff never was, because the companies that benefit from it found out how much it was worth and decided it was worth protecting. The truck you cannot buy is sitting in showrooms in Sydney, Hamburg, and Nairobi right now. If you know where to look, you can have one delivered to your door under a rule that has existed in American law since 1998, and that neither Ford nor General Motors can touch. Subscribe. There is more of this coming, and the next one involves a market you buy from every single week.